I have an announcement to make on the Savage Nation right now. It is an exclusive announcement. It has not been heard anywhere else. It is only being broadcast today on the Savage Nation from my studio in the San Francisco area around the world. It will be picked up, and it will be the letter heard around the world. I have today, through the Thomas More Law Center, filed an appeal to the Honorable Hillary Rodham Clinton, the Secretary of State, to remove the ban that the UK has put upon me. Now, it has been posted on the Drudge Report. The Drudge Report got the news first that this was coming. It went up about, a while ago, let's put it to you that way. Radio host Michael Savage appeals to Hillary to remove his name from UK banned list developing. If you want to read the letter, you can see it on michaelsavage.com right now, but I'm going to read it to my audience because most of you are not at a computer. Most of you are somewhere else, working, driving perhaps. I don't know where you are. I'm going to read you the letter. And it's very important that you listen to each and every word that I'm about to read to you. Again, the Thomas More Law Center, acting on my behalf, has filed a letter with Hillary Clinton asking her to intervene on my behalf. Dear Madam Secretary, on behalf of Michael Savage, an American conservative talk show host, the Thomas More Law Center respectfully demands that you call upon the government of the United Kingdom to rescind the arbitrary and capricious decision to ban Mr. Savage, a U.S. citizen, from entering the United Kingdom. The Thomas More Law Center is a national public interest law firm based in Ann Arbor, Michigan. The UK Home Secretary, on or about May 5, 2009, published a list of 16 individuals banned from entering the United Kingdom. Astonishingly, Mr. Savage was included on that list, which contained names of Muslim clerics, convicted criminals, and Russian skinheads. The Home Office described Mr. Savage in negative terms. The United Kingdom is punishing Mr. Savage for what he says in the United States and not what he has said or intends to say in the United Kingdom. Mr. Savage's radio show is not broadcast in the United Kingdom. I doubt that many British citizens ever heard of Mr. Savage until after the May 5 ban. It is extremely suspicious that the Home Secretary's office would select an American radio talk show host to place on their so-called least wanted list when that individual has never taken steps to enter the country. I want to repeat that. I did not apply for a visa. In fact, the ban on Mr. Savage has caused outrage and a political firestorm in the United Kingdom. Some British citizens are claiming the action against Mr. Savage was used to give political cover to the list that concerned mainly Muslims. Mr. Savage hosts the third most popular radio talk show in the United States with 8 million listeners a week at approximately 400 radio stations coast to coast. He has been on the air for 15 years and has never advocated violence, nor have any of his comments ever instigated violence. Of course, here in the United States, Mr. Savage enjoys the constitutional protection of the First Amendment right to free speech. And his exercise of that right in the United States should not be used as a basis for deterring his right to travel to the United Kingdom. Again, I'm reading a letter that has gone out within the last hour to Hillary Clinton, who is our Secretary of State, to act in my behalf as an American citizen. I do not want this to become a Dreyfus affair. And I want to tell you something else, ladies and gentlemen, as I read this letter. How politicians respond to my appeals will be how they are remembered in the history books. Remember, on the face of it, most of them look as though they really don't care about their legacy, but they do. The bigger ones do. And irrespective of whether or not they agree with my politics, in fact, I assume they do not agree with my politics. In fact, I assume they hate my politics. But I will quote Voltaire, who wrote, "I do not agree with what you have to say, but I'll defend to the death your right to say it." That is a credo that has driven liberalism for several hundred years. I do not agree with what you have to say, but I'll defend to the death your right to say it, Voltaire. I will remind Hillary Clinton, I will remind every other politician I may choose to send a letter of appeal to, that your legacy depends upon whether or not you intervene on my behalf. Of course, it would be easy for the politicians to ignore the letter. It would be easy for the politicians to say, drop dead, we hate your politics. But if they think carefully, they cannot lose by taking my side. They can only win by taking my side. But more than winning by taking my side, they can become great Americans. They can become true Americans. They can become Americans that are recognized in the history books as having done the right thing for a very unpopular figure, at least unpopular in their eyes. And so again, I will continue, and I'll tell you more about this legal case as it unfolds, because there's more intrigue to this than meets the eye. Let me continue, because this is critical. We cite case law now. In the United States, Savage enjoys the constitutional protection of the First Amendment right to free speech. And his exercise of that right in the United States should not be used as a basis for deterring his right to travel in the United Kingdom. Accordingly, says my attorney, I respectfully request that you take all necessary action to protect Mr. Savage's rights under Article 19 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, to which both the United States and the United Kingdom are signatories. Listen to this carefully, people. Article 19, Section 2 provides in part, quote, everyone shall have the right to freedom of expression. This right shall include freedom to seek, receive, and impart information and ideas of all kinds, regardless of frontiers, either orally, in writing, or in print, close quote. Furthermore, pay attention, people. The United Kingdom is in direct violation of Article 10 of the European Convention on Human Rights, which protects the right to freedom of expression. Article 10.1 provides in part, quote, and I want you to hear this, everyone has the right of freedom of expression. This right shall include freedom to hold opinions and to receive and impart information and ideas without interference by public authority and regardless of frontiers, close quote. Now we cite case law. The European Court of Human Rights, case of Surek versus Turkey number 1, the European Court of Human Rights has held that the, quote, freedom of expression constitutes one to the essential foundations of a democratic society, end quote. The court went on to say that this freedom of expression is not only applicable to information and ideas that are favorably received, and here's the punchline, but, quote, also to those that offend, shock, or disturb, close quote. Now, I want to reiterate that I am protected by the European Court of Human Rights in this case, saying that the freedom of expression shall extend to, quote, ideas that offend, shock, or disturb. I am appealing to Hillary Clinton herself to take my case to the United Kingdom and remove my name from that list of unwanted individuals. They are violating, not only are they violating the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights to which they are a party, but they are also violating the European Convention on Human Rights. Question to the Savage Nation. What do you think Hillary Clinton will do when this letter is received by her? It is on the Drudge Report. It is on michaelsavage.com. It should be picked up by my friends in the media. I don't know if I have any. I certainly know that there are some. Look, I'm an American citizen. I was unfairly put on this list. It's a violation of international law. The United States government has an obligation to me as an American citizen, let alone as a broadcaster, to represent me. Well, if they choose to ignore the letter or reject the letter, we'll have to discuss it at that time. I am not so sure that Hillary Clinton will reject responding to this letter in a dignified fashion. Los Angeles, Ian on KGIL, what do you think? Will Hillary respond or not?
I believe Hillary will respond, but she'll respond back to you in just a letter of apology, and there's nothing that she can do at her end. The only way she's going to respond at a more diplomatic end with the UK is if there's more attention drawn to this and more people get involved, and something attacks her credibility on this and puts her on the chopping block.
All right, that's how politicians work. However, in this letter written today, we clearly cite two examples of the violation of international covenants and European law. Shouldn't that unto itself trigger an automatic a response by the Secretary of State to help me?
It should trigger an immediate response, but what happened with the Homeland Security Office, that should have triggered an immediate response by her, but it did not, because it has nothing to do with her yet. When it starts affecting her personally and her...
Wait a minute, but Janet Napolitano backtracked the minute the veterans group said, well, you've gone too far. Janet Napolitano said that they fired or moved the jerk who wrote it to another department. No, there was a reaction because of the outcry. What I need is outcry, Ian. I need millions of emails and millions of letters to go to Hillary Clinton. Just take it from my website, okay? Because it's easier that way. It was sent by fax and Federal Express to the Honorable Hillary Rodham Clinton, U.S. Department of State, 2201 C Street, Northwest, Washington, D.C., 20502. So take the letter and put your own little email on top of it. For God's sakes, though, be dignified about it.
I'm sick and tired of people who say that if you debate and you disagree with this administration, somehow you're not patriotic. And we should stand up and say, we are Americans and we have a right to debate and disagree with any administration.
Now, that was Hillary Clinton then, when Bush was president, saying that we have a right to debate with any administration, and we agreed with her. Well, I'm debating with this administration. I wonder if she agrees with me.